Hello and welcome to Social Sciences Assemblies at Hayes School. Social Sciences refer to some subjects that you are able to pick up at Key Stage 4, so that's Year 10, and Key Stage 5, so that's the start of Year 12. My name's Mr Harvey, I'm Head of Sociology here at Hayes, and I'm joined with
Miss Kay and Head of Psychology here at Hayes. So what is psychology? Well, let's start with what psychology is not. It's certainly not about reading people's minds. It's not about speaking to dead people, becoming a psychic, or even creating horoscopes. It's absolutely not an easy subject. And it's not only about psychiatry, so it's not just about depression and mental health. There are so many strands to psychology. Psychology is the scientific study of people, the mind, and behavior. And the word psychology can be broken down into two Greek words, psyche meaning the mind, soul, or spirit, and logos meaning discourse or to study. So if you put those two words together, you get the study of the mind.
So, sociology, on the other hand, is quite different to psychology. Sociology is the study of the development, structure and functions of our society, so we're interested within the place we live. What we're actually interested in understanding, though, is how behaviour is shaped by social factors that exist within our society. Whilst psychology is concerned with studies of the mind, sociology is more concerned with about social upbringing and our experiences and how those shape us into the humans that we are today. In order to study our society successfully, sociologists will put in place a number of different research methods. Research methods in sociology will help sociologists to understand the place we live. We use theories to help us understand the place we live to back up those research methods, and the evidence used will help us to determine what our society is like.
Psychology tackles some of the big questions that we have, such as, how can humans commit genocide or torture other humans? Do we have free will, or are we driven by our environment? What is mental illness and what can we do about it? How does memory work? Do we all have giant USBs in our heads? Do we have a giant hard drive? Or is it our brain doing all the working? Why do babies attach to their primary caregiver and not a stranger? And what factors make us obey? There are various research methods that we use in psychology. We largely use scientific methods such as brain scanning techniques, blood tests, post-mortem analysis of the brain and the body, and we check our vitals, our heart rate and blood pressure and hormone levels. You'll be surprised to know that there are certain neurotransmitters in your brain that influence your mood. We use questionnaires, interviews, naturalistic and controlled observations, correlational design studies, and also experimental designs where the researcher is manipulating the independent variable to see what effect it has on the dependent variable.
Now, when it comes to sociology, we try to understand the world we live in through a variety of different theories, and some of these theories are highlighted on the screen now for you. Some of them you hopefully would have heard of before, such as feminism and potentially Marxism from lessons in history. But we've also got theories to do with functionalism and postmodernism. Each one of these theories will try to understand and explain the society we live in from their own particular perspective. So functionalists believe that everything performs a positive function in our society. Feminists look at gender inequalities that exist. Marxists look at the conflict between rich and poor people. Postmodernists take a pick and mix approach where you can choose actively to shape your identity in any way that you like. When it comes to research methods in sociology, you'll see that there is some crossover here with psychology and the research methods they use there. We break our research methods into two distinct categories, quantitative methods and qualitative methods. Quantitative and qualitative literally just refer to the type of data that is gathered. Quantitative data tends to be numerical, and so methods such as questionnaires, experiments or structured interviews would come under that category. Qualitative methods, though, give us opinions and feelings, and so therefore we have things like observation and unstructured interviews at that particular point. One thing that both psychology and sociology share, though, is ethics. Ethics are concerned with you conducting your research in a way that will not harm the participant. And often, in its simplest form, it is issues relating to concepts of right and wrong within the research process.
There's a fantastic mnemonic that we use in psychology to remember the various ethical issues that can arise whenever we are conducting research on humans. And we use this mnemonic can do, can't do with participants. The first C stands for consent. It's important that you inform your participants about what your study is going to entail and that they agree to participate. Deception is all about whether or not you have deceived your participants about the true aims of your study. So for example, let's say you tell your participants, I'm interested in the effect of sunshine on learning, but actually you're looking at the effect of sunshine on obedience. You've deceived them, and that can be a problem. Confidentiality. Anyone who participates in your research must be assured that their information will remain confidential and they will remain anonymous in any final write-up. Debrief. This is especially important if you have deceived your participants. You must tell them the true aims of your study at the end, and you must point them to additional resources where they can get support if needed. Withdrawal. Every single participant in any research, both in sociology and psychology, participants must be given the right to withdraw. That could mean they could say, actually, I don't want to continue this questionnaire anymore. I don't want to complete this interview anymore. I don't want to participate in the study. And they must be given that right. And finally, protection. We must protect our participants from harm, both psychological harm and physical harm. You'll be surprised at the amount of studies that have been conducted on humans whereby they have experienced both psychological and physical harm. One such study is by Zimbardo, and you might want to research that later on.
So, what we're going to show you now through this assembly is an example of ethical issues in a piece of research. Now, various ethical issues are going to be broken here, and we're going to see people potentially doing things and conducting research in the wrong way. As we're watching the video and as we're watching the clip, we want you to look out for ways in which the research that is being conducted here is done in a way that is not correct, is wrong.
How easy or difficult is it for us to do what authorities tell us to do? In some cases, authorities are just. They deserve our respect. In other cases, authorities are not just. They're in fact unjust, or they're false authorities. What you're going to see is an interesting demonstration in which some guy dressed in a blue suit with a little conductor's cap tells a stranger that when this other person tries to run away, he should hit him with this taser, which delivers, thousands of volts, enough to almost kill him. Why would anybody do it? Let's see this study in action.
Charlie appears to be guarding this man. In fact, he's another actor. The gadget in his hand is homemade and harmless. But that's not what he tells this passerby.
I've got to go and get, I've not got my walkie-talkie. I've got to go and get help. Can I just hand you this? Now, don't. It's just precautionary, right? Now it's perfectly safe. If you touch it on him, it'll give him one hell of a shock. It's 40,000 volts. It'll disarm him. Beyond that, but now, if he moves,
I use this.
If he moves, you use that, right?
I won't get in trouble.
No, you won't get in trouble. You've got my word. Don't move.
It's a bizarre situation for the passerby. He knows nothing about Charlie or his supposed suspect. Is he really prepared to administer an electric shock?
Look, he's not around anymore, all right, so I'm just going to make a move, all right?
No, don't.
Look, honestly.
Stay there.
Fucking hell.
Again. Good idea. Sit.
This man wasn't alone. Half the people stopped by Charlie reacted the same way.
Told you to sit.
It's disturbing that ordinary people can get caught up in situations where they do things they normally regard as immoral or unacceptable. An authority figure asks you to inflict pain on somebody, and it's very difficult to refuse. And this is the kind of situation where unjust authority can gain power, and some very distressing consequences can come out of it.
Would you obey this man? He's Charlie, our actor, dressed to look like he's in charge, though he's in charge of nothing except a bogus uniform. We've brought him to Edmonton in North London, to the shopping centre, to find out exactly how obedient people are.
Excuse me, madam. Sorry, could I just stop you? You're about to pass between me and the red bench. Could I just ask you to go the other side? Thanks. That's great. Oh, and just be on the apple. It'd be great. Oh, look. Thanks very much, madam. These slabs, I couldn't just ask you to knock it down for me. You're probably heavier than I am. Can you give it a good old jump? Yeah, actually, let me just move that way. Can you just jump, please? Yeah, no, 2-footed probably, best. I couldn't just ask you to litter, could I? To what? To litter. To litter? Yeah, have you got anything you could possibly quickly litter? Do you use that? It's probably all right. Okay. Yeah, could you just litter for me, please, sir? Just twice would be great. Kick it away, otherwise it won't. That's it. Give it a kick. Couldn't ask you just to pop that in your other hand, could I? Thanks, that's excellent. Could I ask you to lead with your left? Yes? And just slowly, really, basically.
It's a simple experiment, but amazingly, it works. Out of uniform, though, it's a different story.
Oh, sir, could I just ask you to switch bags with your hands? Just... You couldn't just go and just touch that brick? No?
But with the uniform, 70% of people follow Charlie's bizarre instructions to the letter.
Oh, fine. Give it one more, actually. The wind's a bit weak. That's it. You want my dental records here? That's proof enough that this is quality sweet corn. A bit harder, please, sir.
He's in uniform.
Stop the bag.
So they obey.
So, hopefully you can see that there were a variety of different ethical issues that were broken during that particular piece of research. One such issue that was broken there was the idea of deception. The people were deceived into thinking that the individual taking part was actually someone who had some sort of authority. There could also have been certain types of harm being committed, and we could argue that consent was not gained by the participants before they took part, or consent was not gained before filming began of the participants as well. We've got a quote up here now from C. Wright Mills that says you can never really understand an individual unless you also understand the society, historical time period in which they live, personal troubles and social issues. And that is true for both sociology and psychology. We need to understand the society we live in, and we need to understand the individuals that exist within those societies.
Absolutely, sir. And it's also important that we bring together the science of our body and also our society. Think about the way your brain works and how it might influence your behaviours. Think about how you can look after your mental health. And this is why both of these subjects are crucial in our society. We have some additional links for you to explore a day in the life of a psychologist. And I said earlier that psychology has many strands. You can look into neuroscience, you can look into becoming a forensic psychologist, an educational psychologist, a counsellor, and more. If you are interested, ask your form tutor to click onto Miss Kay's full psychology and careers playlist, and you can watch some of these videos to gain an insight into these various careers. Thank you for listening and have a wonderful day.